Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the McFarlane Toys Spawn series, the Violator. And am I nuts, or do we not have a Spawn figure from this Spawn line yet? Like a true one. I know we have the various like Cowboy Spawn or whatever it's called. We don't have a regular Spawn, just the one that he did with the Kickstarter type program and the one from the Mortal Kombat line, right? It's gonna hit that. Don't knock it off, don't knock it off, don't knock it off. Made it. So yeah, why don't we have a Spawn figure? What's up with that? I want a Spawn figure. But anyway, here we have the Violator. I figure I would go ahead and get it since I figure it's going to be kind of a fun figure to have. I said figure a whole bunch there. And it's pretty cool. It's got some problems definitely and some limitations, but all in all, it's a solid piece. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Now this guy stands to the top of his little horn thingy about 26 centimeters. Right around there. And it depends, of course, he's got lots of joints in his knees, so you can pose him however you want, but in more of a neutral pose, that's what it's going to be, and that's going to be about 10.5. So this thing is very, very cool looking, and it makes me want to ask a question of the day. How do you guys feel about McFarlane Toys as an action figure company right now, an articulated action figure company? Would you rather they go back to their roots of doing less articulation, more sculpt, more paint? Or would you rather they lean into what they're trying to do with their DC line and now this Spawn line in adding as much articulation as possible while still maintaining the figure's looks? Let me know how you guys feel about that. For me, it has to be the proper balance of articulation to aesthetic. I don't want an action figure that I can't pose. I also don't want an action figure that looks bad because of articulation. It has to be balanced. And I think this guy does a good job of being balanced. Now, of course, he's very, let's say, uniquely sculpted in that he's got giant proportions in certain places and tiny torso and a head coming out of his chest, sort of, and that kind of thing. So there are limitations, but this guy's sculpted really well, painted well enough. All it takes is a wash and a dry brush to bring out the sculpt here, and they did a really good job. This is what I'm looking for. For something like this, I think this is exactly what we needed. Could it be better posed? Yes. Would that be more fun? Yes, but it would cost a whole lot more than it did. So I think this is fine. Like, we don't have some joints in here, but it does look really good. So let's continue with the aesthetic. I love that the mouth has the glossy red with the wash in there. It's very nicely done. The eyes have a different red. It's very bright with the dark around it. That looks really, really good, having that darker kind of eyeshadow. That looks good. The horn things, the two on his face and the one on his back, those have brown with like this tan dry brush on top. That looks good. All of the little spiky things are painted with that tan color. Also, it stands out from the skin. Same thing with the claws and then the spine on his back. It's not like a very detailed or specific paint job, but it is there and it does bring the figure to life. Focus on the legs. There we go. The toes, everything has the claws painted, like the spikes and claws painted. That's what you need. It doesn't have to be like super, super intricate, like everything needs to be perfect. This is exactly what this figure should have been as far as I'm concerned. So they did a really, really good job with the paint and the sculpt. Obviously, it's loaded with sculpted detail, so that's fine. My only real gripe is the torso seems to... I can't get the abdomen part to lean forward to give him like a taller look. Right now it's really leaning back and then the top part's really leaning forward. I can't get that to shift. You can see there's a big gap here because of that. And I want to do that because this is making him look really scrunched. So I don't know if I'll be able to accomplish that. So I'm just going to consider it as it is. This is how it came in the package and I can't get it to change. So he does seem a little bit scrunched even compared to the packaging artwork, the drawn artwork. His torso seems very squatty. So I'm pretty sure I should be able to get this to adjust, and I'll mess with that later, but as it is, this is how I'm going to review it. So there are some slight issues, but all in all, it does look really good, and even if it stays like that, it's fine. So I'm going to give the aesthetic on this guy a 9 out of 10. For what it is, it's really darn good. Now, as far as accessories go, we have none other than this little display stand, which is the same display stand they use for all their lines, just with different printing on it. The funny thing about this is, it's very tiny. It's hardly bigger than one of his feet, so it serves virtually zero purpose. 1 out of 10 for accessories? I mean, shouldn't he have had a bigger one? That's what she said. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. The head, it technically can move. It's on a ball joint, I believe. It definitely can rotate a little bit. Not a lot. And it does feel like it can look up and down, but again, not a lot. So I'm pretty sure there's just a ball peg in there that holds the head on, but it's not going to work that much other than to get some twisting going on. Just a little bit. Now, as you saw, the jaw is articulated, but because of the way this whole guy is sculpted and everything, like closing the mouth it looks goofy. So there's not a whole lot you really want to do with that. And you can see the neck underneath the red parts. So probably just leave it like that and be happy with it. I think that's reasonable. I don't think this guy really follows the laws of physics, so I think that's acceptable. Now, as far as the shoulders go, it's your swivel hinge. Raises up, no problem at all. That is fine. It's actually slightly loose, but not like floppy loose, so I'm okay with that. You get your full rotation, of course. No bicep swivel again. It would have been much nicer to have a bicep swivel, but that would have added to the cost, so I think this is okay. You do get your swivel out of the elbow, so you get your single hinge here, and then you get your rotation. They're still having troubles figuring out joints because there's a giant gap here that doesn't need to be there, but it doesn't matter because it's hidden. So you get your bicep swivel out of that, and that's fine, and you can bend it a little bit more, and that's good enough. I think that's okay. I'm not complaining about that. Alright, now for the wrist, we get our swivel and our hinge, and that works well. They figured this hinge out. They did a good job with that. They didn't do it like they did Steppenwolf and Doomsday so much. Or not Doomsday, Darkseid. This part back here isn't great, but the inside looks good. Mostly. So yeah, that's fine. Same thing on the other side. Now for the torso, it should just be a ball peg down here and then a double ball peg up there, but I can't get any of it to really do anything but rotate a little bit and like just wiggle around. So, I don't know, maybe some hairdryer action will free that up, but it does help to adjust some. So that's okay. And then for the hips, it's just like their DC line. So we have this potentially problematic joint, but it doesn't seem to be that loose on this guy. So they've adjusted it some, so that's nice. So you do get the hinge that goes out to the side. The diaper does flex. So you can get the legs out pretty far. Forward and back, going to be severely limited just due to the design of the character. Nothing you can do about that. That's as much range as you're really going to get. That's okay though, I think that's fine. Thigh swivel, there is some. It goes in, I can't get it to go out. So that's kind of lame. Yeah, it can't go out any farther. They carved it out up here. You can see in there, that's the room you get for the rotation. And you don't get that going back because they sculpted a cheek onto him. So that's probably not worth having. Honestly, you could probably very carefully take this apart, trim that, and then you'd have much better range. And you would just have a slight less of a butt cheek on the Violator, which I don't think you need. Okay, so that's that. Double or single jointed knee. Has really good range. That's nice. Goes all the way forward. There is a rotation here, but the way they did the knee is a little scary because you have such a big gap and such a tiny little peg that's in there. I feel like it's going to break off. And the gap's a little unsightly, but it's not too bad. You won't notice it once it's posed. So yeah, there should be a rotation in there. Mine doesn't really like to do it, but it does rotate. Let's see if this side's any better. Yeah, they both want to fight. Like, they're not stuck, but it feels like they're going to bust. So be very careful with that. And then we have another joint here for the top part of the ankle, which has really good range. Now this one is very loose, which is not good for somebody so top heavy, so that sucks. You do get rotation out of that as well. So that's not going to be super useful, but you do get that in there. So that's cool. I like that. I wish it wasn't so loose. You get an ankle joint also, which is also fairly loose. And that has really good range and an ankle rocker. So yeah, the legs are really well articulated. Not perfect, but they're pretty darn good. And the arms are good enough, and the torso, despite the few problems mine seems to be suffering from right now, torso's pretty good too. So I am very overall pleased with this guy. It could be better, but I don't think for the price point. So I'm very pleased. So articulation-wise, 9 out of 10, and that not being a 10 out of 10, like I said, for the price point, is due to the problems that don't cost anything. Like having things that are stuck or the butt not allowing the leg to rotate, that kind of stuff. That's not a price point issue, that's a design issue. So it's not perfect in that sense, but yeah, I'm very, very pleased with this guy. So final verdict on this guy, again, I believe that all the problems that are actually problems are reasonable for the price points and size and everything like that, other than those few things. So I'm going to give it a final verdict of 9 out of 10. It's a really, really strong release for a character I really don't care about at all, but it looked like it was going to be a cool figure, and I thought I would get it. So I think if you guys are into this sort of thing, make sure you pick one up. It's very well executed. And if you're not, you still might want to. It's kind of cool. It's going to look good on a shelf. A lot of sculpt work, a lot of paint work. Those few loose joints, though, because he's so dang top heavy, they are a bit tricky. You might have to do like the classic one leg forward, one leg back, slightly angled pose just to help him balance himself a little bit. Like that right there. That's like the safest pose I can get him in, I think, for the legs. Yeah, I recommend it. 9 out of 10. There it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.